Hi, hello, hi. This is Franny from Hindsight 2020 Musical Retrospective. This is going to be a special episode, a musical retrospective of one of my favorite albums of all times. This time, I do not have a co-host. There's no Arn with a barn, no panel. It's just me flying solo. And why is that, you ask? I'll tell you. Today happens to be the day that one of my favorite albums of all times, by my favorite band of all times, uh, it's the anniversary of its release, and that album is Saying Anything's is a Real Boy. Was released on August 3rd, 2004. I am recording this video on August 3rd, 2020. Uh, and I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate this album, one of the most influential albums for me specifically, and possibly many others. And I think it fits the theme of the podcast to talk about albums that we feel were, culturally and musically significant. So before we get into the tracks, into the overall review of the record, let's get into let's kind of set the scene a little bit. This album was released in 2004, the early days of mid 2000s emo. We were seeing the rise of bands like Taking Back Sunday, Fallout Boy, Hawthorne Heights, Silverstein. All of these bands were starting to get, gain notoriety. The Used, all of these were bands that were starting to gain notoriety the, these around these times. And Is a Real Boy was an album that to me kind of stuck out from the rest of the pack of that era of emo. And we're going to try to figure out why over the course of this video. So, first and foremost, like I said, let's kind of talk about some of the background information of the record. The one of the sole members of the band. If you don't know, Say Anything is the brainchild of one Max Bemis. Uh, he was basically the main musician over the course of this album, the only other musician being a drummer. He played every other instrument except for drums on this record. Now, what made this album so unique at the time? Well, let's get into that. Initially, this album was supposed to be a rock opera, a whole production, it had a narrative, it had characters, it had, a script, interludes. There were supposed to be many players on this project, and it wasn't even meant to be called Is a Real Boy. The initial name for the project was Zona Zona, but the album proved to be a little too ambitious, and Max Bemis kind of had a falling out with his own brain. He suffered a mental breakdown, had to rest, and when he was ready to get back in the studio, he decided, you know what, I'm kind of not gonna do the whole rock opera thing. But even then, what remained was still a very, in its own way, theatrical record. And let's get into it. So the track opens up with opening track, and as we've stated on multiple episodes of the show, we are sticklers for album openers and album closers. So this album opens up with the song Belt. And even then, before that, the album opens up with a peek behind the curtain of what it's like to be in a recording studio, to be in the process of creating an album. And it does so in the quirkiest, most awkward way, which is a phone conversation between Max Bemis and the record's producer, where Max is talking about how nervous he is to do a spoken word intro to the record. And the more he talks about it, the more you think you're going to hear this amazing speech. And at the end, it's revealed that it's actually only one line, which is, and the record begins with a song of rebellion. And it's that idea, that ode to overthinking, that sets the mood for what this album is and why it resonated with so many people. The idea that something so simple had to be worked up to the point that you had to talk to somebody else and say, you know what, I don't know if I'm doing this right. And the thing you're doing is just one sentence, right? So the idea of awkwardness, quirkiness, uncomfortableness, lonerisms, all of that are constants throughout the record, and is displayed very openly on the first song, Belt. So Belt is a song about, feeling like an outcast, feeling like you are um, resented for not complying, being non-compliant and kind of doing things your own way, and understanding that that had cost the ire of some of your contemporaries, some of Max's contemporaries, or just, the population at large kind of doesn't like what you're doing because you're not doing what everybody else is doing. And the song itself is a solid solid rocker, is a good rock song, upbeat, it's fun, it's great, it's got you singing along, and then it takes a left field for the culmination of the track. It's the first instance of many times that the record does this, where a song ends in a completely different place where it began. Whereas it started as a straight up rock song, it ends on this, gargantuan chorus chant of, just gang vocals challenging the community, challenging societal norms and standards by shouting, "So what say you and all your friends? Meet all of my friends in the alley tonight," which is a cool line, not just because it sounds cool and menacing and challenging, but also it is a throwback to one of their earlier songs, was a Showdown at P Town, which is another song about an us versus them type deal. As the weird, misunderstood loner punk kid standing up to like the cool, rich jocks, and I feel like this song is Belt is a spiritual successor to that song, and that leads us to the second track, which is Woe, WOE, not woe as in whoa, but woe as in sadness. And if there's any song uh, that is very much a representation of what this album could have been had it become a rock opera, had the initial um, had the initial vision for the record be followed through. It is this song. This song is a remnant of what could have. It is a look into what could have been. This song feels theatrical. I don't feel like this song would feel out of place in a Broadway show, like in some theater production. Um, Piano heavy, kind of slow song, and this song kind of sets it nails in its runtime what would take me forever to explain as to why this album was so revolutionary for its time, why Max Bemis was such a revelation in terms of songwriting. And it's said in the lines of this song, all the words in my mouth that the scene deemed unworthy of letting out. It's very much a call against, how he understands that his songwriting might have rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Now, let's give some context into that. So maybe this is coming from a very personal place. Maybe this is solely the way I look at it, or maybe you guys would share this opinion. But a lot of bands, especially those that uh, fell within the emo spectrum of the time, lyrically, as much as I love those bands, the lyrical content scene always tended to be very overly dramatic, over theatrical, over sentimental, uh, bordering on just whiny and dramatic, and very flowery, very poetic. You can tell those dudes just were pulling out thesaurus, looking for fancier ways of saying what they were feeling, right? And then here comes Max Bemis just telling you how he feels in layman's terms. He's saying what he wants to say the way he's going to say it. And that, there's a couple examples, a lot of examples throughout the entire record. You've got songs like The Feudal, where, or Futile, however you prefer to pronounce it, where Max talks about what do old people teach us but how to die, or you've got songs like Every Man Has a Molly, where this was supposed to be a song by the main character of Zona Zona, but I'm pretty sure there's some truth to it, where he's berating his fans for quote unquote being the reason why he would never have rough sex with his ex-girlfriend again, because they took up too much of his time and blah blah blah. Or how he takes aim at singers of other bands and their predatory behaviors on songs like Little Girls, or how he talks about his own emotionally manipulative and predatory behaviors in Spider Song, where he says, uh, I'm the spider, and he talks about all the webs he weaves, all the lies he tells to try to get a girl into bed. Or, the entire closing to the album, Admit It, the 6 minute rant against, musical and cultural gatekeepers. All of it is said very straightforward, very, there's a lot of sarcasm, a lot of snark, a lot of bite in how Max Bemis delivers his messages, delivers his emotions, and all with, despite the fact that it's all set in this very down to earth tone, it still doesn't lose the dramatic flair. It still doesn't lose the theatricality of the genre. It just kind of flips it on its head and does that drama in a sense that is still relatable. It's still fairly dramatic. It's still fairly theatrical, but it's no, cut my wrist and black my eyes. It's no Silverstein's already dead. It's no, AFI singing about Miss Murder. It's no, Taking Back Sunday. You could slit my throat, and with my one last gasping breath, I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt. It doesn't reach those levels of theatricality, but it does enough. But it also says it in a language that we can all understand. And, that is very much at play in this song and the rest of the record. The rest of the record kind of follows that mission statement. And in this song, kind of talking about how people, didn't really like that, or how it didn't jive with a lot of people. I think it was very, I thought back then, and I still think now, that it was very cool that he brought that up, that he's basically saying, I know you guys don't like this, because he continues to do it throughout the course of the record. So, very much an in your face attitude that I think was missing from a lot of emo bands at the time. It has already been displayed just 2 songs in. The song is then followed up by the Writhing South, which is an absolute rocker of a track, multifaceted track, all about the 2 main pillars of the rock and roll life. It's about drugs and sex, and how the pursuit of those can drive a man insane. And not much to say about the song. I love it. I absolutely love it. Uh, and the next track following uh, The Rising South is, of course, the track everybody loves, Alive with the Glory of Love. What can I say about this track that hasn't been said by, 1,000 existing reviews, or by, your friend who plays this at a party, once it's his turn to get the aux cord. Uh, I think this song just evokes a lot of happiness in people, even though it's not a happy song. I feel like this song is the epitome of that, like that meme of like a super nice house on the outside, but then on the inside it's super like uh, it's super mistreated and just torn down and washed out and stuff. I feel like this is the epitome of that. Super dancey, super jumpy musically. Uh, the chorus is scientifically, genetically designed to be sang along to. I've witnessed that. I've done this song at countless karaoke nights, and there's not a soul in the building who does not jump in as soon as the no's come in the chorus. So, and also I have a special connection to this song because I sang this song for a school project and got in trouble because of its very honest depiction of male teenage hormones. So that's always a fun story I'm going to carry with me. If you want to hear more about that, maybe later. Uh, Next song is The Feudal. No, sorry. Next song is Yellow Cat / Red Cat. In an album full of quirky songs and, you know, experimental songs within the genre confines, I think this is the weirdest of the bunch. You know, a very fuzzy, slow song that just kind of builds up to nothing. I feel like initially the way this song plays out, you think you're gonna get, that it's leading up to a massive conclusion, such as songs like Belt or Slowly Through a Vector or Chia Like I Shall Grow. But this song just kind of fizzles out at the end. And I love how the musical choices made in this song reinforce the lyrics to the song. This is the song about Max Bemis. This song about Max Bemis getting high and just observing the world around him and how he's just kind of just swallowed up by his couch, swallowed up by his thoughts, and just thinking way too much about the very mundane things happening around him. How he looks at his cats fighting and how he breaks it up with his foot. And, he dedicates an entire verse to that. He talks about this lonely guy uh, just uh, just sitting at a diner drinking coffee and how Max feels that he's on his way to becoming that. He gives a lot of thought into what that guy's life might be like. Someone that you wouldn't really give a second glance to. You just kind of pass by and you're like, oh, look at that guy. And that's about it because he's high as shit. Max just kind of explores and dissects this moment and what it may mean on a grander scale. Or he's talking about just being super high, staring out the window, and watching his neighbor's kids playing cowboy in their yard across the street. So uh, a song that leads to nowhere follows these lyrics about how he feels like he's going nowhere, and they complement themselves each other so perfectly, so beautifully. Uh, Also, the muddiness, the murkiness of the instrumentation also adds to the idea of the muddiness and the murkiness of your thoughts when you're in that state. So everything about this song just played out perfectly with itself. And again, I love it. I'm going to say that about every song on this record. I love every single song on this record. I think this is a very biased review, so I'm sorry. But yeah, I just wanted to celebrate this album a little bit. So let's keep going along the track listing. Next song, I had alluded to this song. You get Spider Song. Spider Song, Max. This is also a straight alternative rock track. Very uh, aesthetically pleasing, and then you get about uh, these lyrics about admitting to manipulative behaviors as a man and how you lure women to fall in love with you or lure women into bed with you. Again, I'm the spider, I'm growing legs, I'm the spider are just lyrics about how it's basically a metaphor for, again, the webs we weave, the lies we tell, like the lies we tell to entrap someone into what we want, and the crazy amount of effort we put in to get into somebody's pants. And I love the last lyrics of the song, the I'm too cool to call you, but I'm far too stoned to leave my bed. It's also how Max has his own spider, which is drug use. As much as he wants to get out of his intoxicated stupor to go out and get laid, he also lacks the energy to do so because he's just getting high as shit and just laying on his bed all day. So even the spider has a spider, you know? Sometimes you can be a tiny little spider and you get caught by a tarantula or something. I don't know if that's an accurate metaphor, but it's the best one I could come up with on short notice. After that, we get possibly the second weirdest song on the album, which is of an orgy of critics. This song is chaotic as shit. It features guest vocals by a female singer that I forgot to look up for this review. This is very last minute. I'm sorry, but this song is chaos incarnate. If we're following the very loose concept of this album being uh, a recollection of Max's uh, rock and roll life, this is the song that was clearly meant to represent the scattered brain on someone on, just kind of on a bender, just kind of being out there in the world, not really knowing what the shit you're doing, but you're out there doing it. And also admitting to, just kind of the bravado of being a rock star. The lines, "I've never killed nobody, I promise you're my first, and you'll always remember your first." This whole thing about like, yeah, you're like this person whose dreams I'm gonna crush, and I can do it because I'm a fucking rock star. Who cares? You're not gonna be the first person I'm gonna do this. You're the first person I'm gonna do this to, but you're not gonna be the last because this is my life now. I'm living in the fast lane. And again, just an exploration of that mentality, done very, very frankly, uh, is an invigorating listen. It's crazy. This song gets me hyped the fuck up every time it comes on. I love it. Uh, After that, we get "Every Man Has a Molly." "Every Man Has a Molly" is the closest that I get to a dud on this record. And even then, it's not really a dud. I love this song. I'll sing along to it every time it comes on. This is just the most confusing song on the album for me. Again, this was a remnant of Zona Zona. This was a song that followed a particular character of Zona Zona, Molly Connolly, who's referenced in the song. As far as I can tell, is not a real person, but you have Max Bemis, or this character portrayed by Max Bemis, who's you know talking about how fame and fortune and the rock star lifestyle ruin his relationship with someone back home, and he laments that, and he takes, instead of kind of looking inward into the decisions that he has made that may have caused the downfall of this relationship, he takes it out on her and blames her. "Molly Conley ruined my life." And, just like any jilted ex lover, especially one that is compounded with mental and substance issues, he threatens uh, he threatens to take his own life. He berates the fact that he will never have sex with her again, saying that that's the only thing that matters. But the deeper you're going to the lyrics, it's clearly about more than just, like, oh, I'll never get to fuck this person again. Because clearly you're not lacking in the sex department if the other songs preceding this are any indication, right? Like, you're not, like, that's not what you're sad about. You're sad about losing the relationship as a whole, but right now you're too drunk, you're too high, you're in too much of a power trip to admit that that's what you miss, so you're just gonna talk shit, and that is the basis of this song. And again, it's so weird to me because it's supposed to be in character, but the narrative aspect of this record was supposedly scrapped at this point. So when I first heard this song, I was under the impression that Max Bemis was genuinely calling out an ex-girlfriend of his by name. And it's even weirder to me that her name is Molly Connolly, because I thought, is there any relationship to Max Bemis's hero, which is Saves the Day's Chris Connolly? It might be a little weird you don't want to burn that bridge, right? And then to realize that this isn't about anyone in particular, but it's still on the record. I don't know. It kind of messed with my head a little bit, but song's a banger either way. If you're going through a breakup, play it, sing it out loud. That way you don't. I hope anything that you were gonna put in a drunken late night text to your ex, you take those feelings out, screaming the lyrics to this song out instead, and I think that'll work just as well. Uh, Next, we get slowly through a vector. Slowly through a vector, a slower song, very fantastical in its lyrics. It's the return of gang vocals. Gang vocals show up throughout this song, and not much to say about this one lyrically. I don't think this one stands out to me as much as more some of the other tracks on the record. But the ending to this song will always be memorable to me because it's another moment, much like Belt, where the song ends in a completely different place where it began. It starts, you get this slow, kind of prodding, fantastical song, and you end up with this weird, again, kind of show tuney, kind of Broadway refrain of just ha ha ha, show me what you got. And it starts slow and it builds up to, again, these gang vocals, this crowd of people, just everybody just screaming ha ha ha, show me what you got. And then it just ends. And it's so weird, so out of left field. It's so memorable. Uh, and I love that no matter how many times I've heard this record, I am never ready for that ending. It still always takes me by surprise. And I love that. Next, we got Chia Like I Shall Grow. This is one of my favorite songs on the record. This is a song that, the ultimate sign of fandom. This is a song that I want to get a tattoo of, specifically the lines I shall grow and grow, which are a refrain near the back end of the song. So this song is very vindictive lyrically. It is a song about proving your naysayers wrong. It's about, sticking it to the haters, being ridiculed and coming back stronger than ever and taking your metaphorical or literal revenge on anybody that's ever doubted you, anyone that's ever put you down, and, telling them, like, just you wait and see. I will grow and grow. I will become this huge, undeniable force in the world. And sometimes you need to hear something like that. Sometimes you need to feel that way. And this song encaptures that feeling perfectly. And I love it. It's, again, one of my favorite songs on the record. After that, the mood comes down. And if this song is the following, again, if we're following this loose, implied narrative of the life of a rock star, this song is the come down after your however long, insert X amount of time bender, and you get to a realization of all the destruction that you've left in your wake. That is this next song. I Want to Know Your Plans. Uh, Acoustic ballad, all about asking for forgiveness, humbling yourself to the person that you have hurt, and being very frank about your emotions. This is a song that could be a sequel to the verbal vomit that was Every Man Has a Molly, whereas there you're blaming the other person for the downfall of this relationship. In this song, you're being honest and saying, I love the chorus. Sorry, I had it blacked out for a second. Like the chorus, you're what keeps me believing the world's not gone dead. You're the strength in my bones. You're the words in my head. This whole idea of saying, like, yes, I know I said some terrible, terrible things to you before, but here's how I really feel. I'm in a better place now, and I want to tell you that this is how I actually feel about you and our situation. And whatever I can do for you, uh, I will do it. Whatever I would have to do to make it up to you for the pain and destruction that I've caused from living this recklessly, I will do what I can for you, which is, beautiful sentiment. I love it. This is one of my favorite apology songs, one of my favorite ballads in this vein, in this genre. This is up there for me. So, yeah, great song overall. After that, you get the official closer to the record, because there is a B-side compilation called "Was a Real Boy," which I'll also uh, get into. But first, let's end the proper record. The closing track to "Is a Real Boy" proper is the 6 minute epic. Um, Admit It. Oh boy, Admit It. This song is so fucking prophetic. You know, uh, released in 2004, it rails against, cultural and musical gatekeepers, musical elitists, shitting on the people that would eventually, get all of their album recommendations from Pitchfork or indie heads on Reddit, you know. But, for a song that was written 16 years ago, it has such a scary amount of foresight in how it rails against, literally mentions hipster culture, uh, people who buy analog just to say that they're more sophisticated, people that buy vinyl just for the sake of owning vinyl and saying, and thinking that makes them more, um, sophisticated than your average musical consumer. All of these things that you see in music culture today and that are extremely prevalent, like, all of those memes and stereotypes of what a hipster is are touched up on and brutally taken down in this song written 16 years ago. If any song on this album were to be a timeless song, it would probably be Admit It. Admit It is an amazing closer. Every time we review a record on this show, we talk about how, we're sticklers for album openers and album closers. I think Admit It ends this album on a high note. It is 6 minutes long, multifaceted, and Max Bemis kinda decides to not sing to really drive his point home. This song is just a, a rant. It's just a spoken word rant with a musical accompaniment, and it works perfectly. It's fucking amazing. I I love this as an ending to the record. It took me forever to actually listen to this song because of how long it was. To me, before the record ended on "I Want to Know Your Plans." If you're following again the loose narrative that I have in my head, the implied narrative of the cycle of rock star life, I think that the perfect ending was in "I Want to Know Your Plans." But I feel like "Admit It" it's just the icing on the cake here, and it's I love this record so much. I can't stress enough how much I love this record. But yeah, that is the album proper. I'm going to do a quick run through of the B sides compilation. Was a Real Boy. One of the second biggest single off of this album after "Alive the Glory of Love" is actually on the B sides compilation, which is "Wow, I Can Get Sexual Too." Wow, I Can Get Sexual Too. Such a simple song. It's so deceivingly simple. It's just a drum machine and a few piano chords here and there. Lyrically, the song is incredibly relatable. It's about the awkward stages, the awkward stage of a relationship where you're opening up to your partner sexually. The song details a moment where Max is on the phone with his partner at the time, and she starts trying to initiate phone sex. She tries touching herself on the phone for him, and instead of being aroused, or maybe he was aroused, but instead of following along and kind of getting the hint and being like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what I have to do here, he just kind of laughs. It's just so weird, so awkward, so unexpected that he just laughs at the sheer absurdity of what's going on, and also probably laughing out of nerves. And who hasn't been there? Honestly, I've been there. Pretty sure a lot of you have been there. It's such a down to earth, relatable song about what it means to be in that place. And yeah, it's a great exploration of that particular moment in time. After that, another song I had alluded to, we get Little Girls. Little Girls is a song uh, sang from a first person perspective, but it is a song uh, kind of condemning the predatory behavior of, you know, band members and band singers saying, like, I kill little girls, like, you should be afraid of me. Like, why would you not? Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you come near me if you know I'm going to metaphorically kill you? I'm going to destroy you. And it's just, um, again, a very stark, very straightforward condemnation of that kind of behavior. And again, it is a problem that it's so prevalent in music now. I mean, it was back then, obviously, but even more so now. And so many things are coming to light, like the dismantling of Burger Records, because so many of the acts associated with them uh, either participated in or perpetuated um, a culture of toxic masculinity and a culture of sexual of sexual predators. Again, this is another song that is very timeless. The points made, the spotlight shown on this uh, abhorrent behavior in the music scene is still very prevalent now. It's still very much an issue. This song still rings true 16 years down the line. So, again, a very impactful song. I know recurring panelist on this show, uh, Orly Valdez, absolutely loves this song. So, I wanted to have him on to talk about it, but I hope I did it justice for you, dude. I hope I spoke well enough about it. Um, After that song, we get one of my favorite songs by Say Anything, which is Most Beautiful Plague. Most Beautiful Plague. It plays like a ballad, but it is very deranged. It's a very deranged love song. Again, we're talking about, kind of being in the grips of, a mental breakdown of like this weird chaotic episode within your head, these threats of like, if you ever leave me, I will just soak you in formaldehyde. uh, you know uh, this love is the most beautiful plague, how kind of like you're driving each other crazy but you love each other type of situation. A very theatrical, very dramatic song. And I love it. It's so out there. It's such a shocking listen that it stays in my head every time I hear it, and I'm just singing it along, just kind of being like, "Holy shit! How can someone get away with saying something like this?" But then you realize this is just so sincere, and it's a product of a mental break, and I don't know. It's a very impactful listen. It's stayed with me from the very first time I heard it, and I love it. After that, you get It's a Metaphor Fool. This one, again, it's not necessarily a dud. I still love it. I still play it whenever it comes on. But it is very much a song that I don't think much of. The lyrics are, again, very much like, hey, fuck the haters. This guy in particular about how he's going to, kind of systematically break this person down because he insulted his band or his friends. And, I mean, it's cool, it's fun, not much else to it. After that, we get Total Revenge. This is an acoustic track, plays like a ballad, and it is a song. Again, the sincerity of Max Bemis never ceases to amaze me. Even though a lot of the things that he speaks of on this record are commonplace now within the genre, I feel like at the time, the stuff that Max talks about on this record and how he talks about it were probably, revolutionary. They were probably like, again, as I mentioned with Most Beautiful Plague, it's kind of like this. I can't believe you're saying this stuff right now. And Total Revenge is kind of, it definitely falls into that category of song. There's a song about Max speaking openly about, going to therapy, talking to his therapist about the dissolution of this relationship that he alludes to over the course of the record. And yeah, very straightforward, very much, no overly dramatic. It's not, he's not trying to paint himself as crazy. He's being very honest. Like, I am in therapy talking about you because, yeah, this had a big impact on me in my life. So, again, very commonplace now. I think a lot of bands do reference, therapy or speaking out about mental health issues. But at the time, I think that felt very, very revolutionary, at least revolutionary the way he did it. A lot of bands may have written these super poetic, esoteric lyrics about being crazy or, melodramatic lyrics about depression and whatever. But I think up until that point, nobody that I can remember put it as plainly as Max did. So I love this song because of that. And yeah, next we get Metal Now. Metal Now is another kind of deranged love song. Not much to say about it. I like it. Yeah, that's Metal Now. After that, we get I Will Never Write an Obligatory Song about being on the road and missing someone. This song is a lot of fun. It goes through many changes and, in stylistic direction. It's all over the place. And despite its title being about never writing a song about missing someone while being on the road, that is exactly what the song is about. So I love the irony, the title, the highly sarcastic and, biting lyrics about missing somebody on the road and thinking, I never thought I would be this guy, but I am that guy and I miss you. Yeah, great track overall, great closer to the B sides of this record. So that being like all told, I said it was going to be a quick review, but it's been 45 minutes. So hopefully I alone can keep your attention for that long. But yeah, I wanted to do this because I love this record. I think this is a very important record in within the confines of emo and maybe just modern rock in general. I do think this is a very important album. It's a landmark album. Like I said, I think a lot of bands, I think this album broke ground for the lyrical stylings and lyrical content of many bands nowadays that are openly talking about mental issues and, kind of having these crazy thoughts and mental breaks, being able to speak of it in layman's terms. I'm thinking about bands like Modern Baseball, The Front Bottoms, Real Friends, The Wonder Years, bands that put those feelings front and center. They don't hide it under a lot of fluff and a lot of, flowery poetic language. They just tell you front and center, this is how I'm feeling and I want you to understand it. I think it began, they're not the first guys that did it, but they probably were the ones that broke the ground within the genre. I think it began with Say Anything's Is a Real Boy. And I know that it did that for me. Uh, I was in a band for a couple years with my co-host Arnold, and I know that when I first started writing songs, I wanted to be, writing songs in the style of guys like Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie or Chris Carrabba of fucking Dashboard Confessional, or I wanted to be, writing songs like Adam Lazzara of Taking Back Sunday. Like I wanted to write those super poetic, or Jesse Lacey of Brand New, and I wanted to write those super poetic, flowery lyrics about, like overly dramatic, theatrical heightening of emotions. But I couldn't write that way. That's not how I am. I'm not a very flowery guy when it comes to my rhetoric. The way I write, the way I talk, it's not like that. I can't convey my feelings in those ways. And along came Say Anything, along came Max Bemis expressing the same feelings that I was having in a way that I understood it. And it clicked for me. You know, uh, every time that my band would try to write a song, I would reference Say Anything songs, both musically and lyrically. I would say I want to write something along the lines of what Max is doing with Say Anything. I even told my girlfriend that my goal for my band was to be Laredo's Say Anything. So this was the very first album I heard by them. I mean, this was their major label debut. This was their big break into the mainstream. So this was my introduction to the band, and I never looked back. Since I first heard this record, they have been my favorite band. I've loved everything they've put out. Anything with Max Bemis' name on it, I will immediately jump on. So hopefully, if you've never heard this album, I said enough to make you want to listen to. And if you have heard the album, I hope you have some degree of appreciation for it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it, celebrate it a little bit. Uh, it's at Sweet 16. It just turned 16 years old. So it's been a part of my life for over half my life. And yeah, I just wanted to sing this album's praises. Thank you for sticking around and listening to this if you do. Uh, this Sunday, we're going to be talking about Idols as Joyous and Active Resistance, an amazing punk record from the UK. So if you're into punk, songs about equality and banding together and all of that stuff, check it out. Give us a uh, come hang out with us when we talk about the record. I am trying to do another episode of our Get to Know series where we interview local artists. I'm going to try to get that done on Thursday. It's going to be live streamed. If all goes well, it will be with Lex Chapa, aka Novo Ray, and we're going to be talking about the release of her single. So hope I'm going to putting that out there. I'm going to try to manifest that. Hopefully we can get that done on Thursday. It'd be great if you guys tuned in and asked her a couple questions if you had any. I'm sorry if this video was longer than expected. I'm sorry if it was a little rambly. This was a last minute thing upon realizing that my favorite album came out 16 years ago today. So we might do this with other albums. I don't know, maybe. This is a very free form show and channel. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Say Anything's Is a Real Boy. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment and stay safe out there. And I love you. Bye.